Okay. Hello. uh, let's see. Of course, of course, like with time zones and stuff, I thought it was in an hour, but it's now. So let's do this. I'm just checking that all the audio and stuff is working. Yeah, great. Okay. Let's see. So, what we're going to do on this stream is really talk about all the state management complexities of building an editor like CodeSandbox. And like some historic context is that we already had an editor, our version 1 editor, which was built using a global state store, which worked really well for us. But there were some issues with that approach that we wanted to solve building the new editor. And in the new editor, we really embraced React for state management, and that solved some of the issues that we had with the previous approach, but it also created a lot of new issues. And oh, sorry, 2 seconds. Just my gather calling. I thought I quit the app. Anyways, where was I? Yeah, so it introduced a lot of new issues, and what we've been reflecting and discussing is like, how do we actually build something as complex like this, solve the issues we had in the version 1 of the editor, and also fix the issues we've had in version 2. And I'm not going to go through all the issues. We're just going to use a tool that I built to kind of see if we can resolve all these issues. And then we're just going to use that tool and talk about challenges and so on and so on. And we're going to refactor an app, and we're also going to try to actually take certain flows in the existing editor and re-implement them to see if we can manage it in a better way. So what we have here is the actual editor, and one of these complex flows, like CodeSandbox is a very productivity app type of experience. It's not like an e-commerce type of experience. So it has very different state management challenges. And one of those challenges is, if I go here and create a branch, it's something I worked on recently, which is handling commit messages. So if I go here and I change something, let's just change like the color to red, and I save this, like now we have a git change, right? And when I go to the commit panel, we get a generated AI message for that commit, which is awesome. But this git state, we use this git state everywhere. We use it on the commit panel, we use it in the file explorer. If I go to the file, there's an indication here that there is like a git diff here. And also when I create a PR, we first commit if there are any local changes, and then we create your PR. But not only that, we also have a badge up here, which also has the git information. So what happens when you create a PR is that we have to manage what's the git status, what is the state of the generated AI commit message, and then we actually create the PR. So that kind of shows you all this complexity kind of all over the application, which is why we have like the need to share state, and we don't only need to share the state, we need to manage this complexity of managing the state as well. As I said, the create PR button can generate a commit. It can also ask for a AI commit message if it's eligible to do that. You can also commit from here, and so on and so on. So that's just one example of the kinds of complexity we need to deal with. And there's lots more of it. But what we are going to do, we are going to jump into this little app I built for the family. Well, for my partner and me. And this is, of course, an app. Maybe we can take a look at it. I'll just create a branch. And then I can show it to you. Let's see. I'm going to open this in a new... let's see. Oh, I haven't configured it. Let's do that. Set as primary. I haven't worked on this project for ages. Let's see. Now we can open it as a browser tab. And this app, let's see here. Let's see. Where's the emulator thingy? Hello. Where's that? I've forgotten. Oh, there it is, of course. Whatever. Give me an iPhone. A little bit bigger iPhone. Cool. Let's see. I think I can sign in here, or we are not on an authorized domain. I'm just going to fix that quickly because we kind of need to. Let's see. I'm just going to Firebase console. Firebase console. I'm just going to fix this on my other computer here. Let's see. Blah 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 blah. Let's see. Family Scrum. Yeah, it's a silly name. Family Scrum. Let's see. Let's go to authentication. Where the hell do I configure my domains? Users and permissions? No, that's not it. Integrations? Where the hell do I configure? Oh, settings. Here we go. Authorized domains. Yeah, okay. So it needs to be csv.app. And okay, let's see now. I'm going to, I guess I don't need to refresh, but I'll do it anyways. Okay, cool. I'll sign in with my personal account. And so this is this is the app. So we try like every Sunday, my partner and me, we sit down, and I built this app that gives us like a shopping list. It gives us checklists, because we always have like stuff we need to do, and then we do it like over time. And then we have like this planning thing where we can like plan dinners. And we also have these to-dos. So it's kind of for us to avoid talking about like family stuff during the whole week, like routine stuff, and then rather spend like one day or like one moment together just looking through the stuff we kind of put into this. And then we can like set which days and stuff we want to do, and then see if we actually did that the next day. Anyways, this is not a very complex application, but it's actually surprisingly complex. So I think it's a good way for us to talk about state management, and also try this tool and see how it holds up. So let's see here. Oh my god. Sorry, you'll have to excuse that I'm a little bit all over the place. But we need to figure out how we want to do this stream. Okay, cool. So what we have here, I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. I think this is pretty okay. Let me just, so that I can see where we're at. Oh, come on. There we go. And I'm not going to go through everything here, but what I'm going to state is that this actually has quite a similar setup as our editor. As I said, we embraced React, so we're using hooks to define our state and manage our state. But what we had to do to more efficiently share that state is that we expose that state and management of that state through providers. But providers has their own set of challenges. But the good thing about providers is that you can say this state and this management of state belongs to this section of the application, which we're going to talk more about. But in this application, we just use hooks, but we don't use context providers. We just like pass down the state. And we are going to change that. And what this mostly is about is managing like the data. And we're going to see how we can organize that in a little bit different way, because now there's a lot of stuff. Like diving into these files, there's a lot of stuff. Even me not having looked at this for a while, it's a little bit overwhelming. And some of it is because it's Firebase, and some of it is because it's all kind of crunched together. So where should we start? What we could start with is to basically just introduce the primitive that we're going to use for this refactor, and the impact tool, and that's called stores. Nothing fancy, it's just called stores. And the most fundamental piece we have here is Firebase. So I believe I actually have a Firebase hook, and it actually takes, and this is actually a provider. And we actually, if we go and figure out where we use this, it's in the page container. We like provide the Firebase app. But what we're going to do now, we're going to co-locate this into a store. I thought that would be a good place to start. So we're going to create a Firebase store. Let's export that, Firebase store. And let us also actually install Yarn and Impact app latest. And this store is going to be global, but in Impact, all the stores are by default global. So if you don't explicitly provide the store through a stores provider, it's global. And what we want to do here is basically just take what we have from our page container here. And one complexity we have here, which really annoys me, that we might be able to do in a different way, is that I'm using Next.js, and there's no reason for me to use Next.js here. And it does server-side rendering, but there's certain things it can do on the server. Like we don't want to initialize the Firebase app and stuff like that. So what we're going to do as part of this is, I think we're just going to lazy load the app itself, because then we don't have to make all these checks. Maybe we could just start with that. So this is the app, and it loads the page container. So what we're gonna do, which I think will just work out of the box, is that we're going to do, we're just lazily going to open this one. Let's try that. What's it called? Like lazy page container, and then lazy. And this is so cool. I think it was a page container. No, it was .components. Was it page container? Page container. Yeah. I'm not sure why it's yelling. Is it because I need to use .default? Yeah, I don't know. Oh, it's because it doesn't have oh yeah, it doesn't have a default export. So I guess we could just do that. Export default. Ah, come on. Page container. If if we get that running smoothly, that will be super nice. So if we just do this, I think maybe we should be good. Oh, but we also had the dashboard, didn't we? Can I just add it here maybe? No, I think that will load up. Okay, let's just import the dashboard in the page container. And then we have dashboard here. Okay, let's just try this and see if it works. And I promise not to get stuck on this. Yeah, that seemed to work. Cool. And I can make this better so that we have like, we can render the skeleton from the server, and then we like lazy load the app on top of that. But I'm not going to do that now. We can do that later because that's more UI stuff. So let's see here. Let's see. Cool. So our Firebase store. Now we should be able to just grab this thing and initialize everything. Let's see. I'll just put it in there. Firebase store. And the thing about these stores is that even though they are defined as a function, this function only runs when it initializes. And since this is a global store, it will only run. It will only be instantiated once and also run once. So let's go and grab this stuff and put it in here. So now we can say our app is initialize app, and the question is like, what do we want to return from this store? I have a feeling that we want to create some kind of abstraction around this, but let's return app and auth for now. Cool. So now we have our Firebase store co-located here, and now I can just use this store wherever I want. Okay, cool. So what should we work on first? And I'm reflecting a bit on the approach here. Should we comment out a bunch of stuff and then we kind of gradually get the application back into its state? So we kind of start with a groceries list. And I think that's a good idea. I like that, Christian. Let's see. Yeah, let's do that. So we don't even do the dashboard. We're just going to do the session for now. So we don't need this Firebase context anymore. Because we have this session component, and the session component, we can take a look at it. We can also drop this is browser thing. That should just work now. Let's see if that still works. Yeah, it gives an error, but that's fine. So this session component, it actually has a suspense to a dashboard skeleton because I'm like loading up all the data up front. We're going to change, we're still going to use suspense, I think. But one thing that I noticed in the app is that I like preload all the data before like interaction, and I don't like that. So that's not tied to the way the state management is. It's more like just how I initially approached it. But that's something we're gonna fix, I think. But the point is that we have this suspense boundary that shows the skeleton, and then we render out the dashboard in this case. And the dashboard is like fetching data, and then it uses the suspense boundary to show the skeleton until all the data is ready. And then we have a sign-in model, and we also have an update model. So how do we want to do this? Because you have to sign in to actually use the app. That was not the case initially when I built it, but now that is absolutely the case. Let's see, I have my computer next to me and it keeps falling asleep, which is really annoying. System settings. Where do you do that? Is that like display? Where is it on general? How do you adjust, like, I don't want you to go to sleep, computer? Is it battery? Screensaver? Yeah, no idea. Lock screen. Oh, here we go. You know what? I'm just going to do never for everything here. Never, 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 never. Never. Oh, okay. Require password after screensaver begins or display is turned off. Okay, fine. Okay, I think we're good now. Cool, sorry about that. Okay, so we are going to manage the session in terms of state. And the question is, how do we manage the session? Because we don't really care about having a session. We just care about being signed in or not. So what we want to do is I think we can still call it session. Let's do that. Let's call it a session store. I wonder if we already have something like that. I'll call it use sign in. We can copy this. Let's see. So let's just export a session store. And in here, we can now actually use Firebase. So we're going to say Firebase store. And I'm going to be super explicit how I write this. Let's see. I guess we can just do this. Then we have get auth, which is coming from not Firebase admin, but Firebase auth. Cool. Yeah, and then this should be sign in. Yeah, I guess we can just call it sign in. And this does a sign in with redirect. But what's interesting about this is that we want to know, okay, let's import those things as well. You sign in. This is a Google Auth provider. Where does it get? Oh, here it is. Okay, so sign in with redirect. It's interesting how Firebase changed their API, that you had like everything available on like a root, but now you have to like import specific functions, which makes a lot of sense for, like, it's more procedural. I guess that's the right term for it. So you import individual functions and then you rather provide what they need to run very specific logic, which makes a lot of sense for Firebase because it's a huge API surface and you don't want to include everything in your app. But it's interesting how it's harder. Well, not harder, but it's not as like seamless to just do something. You have to like compose things more together, as you can see here. But what we're going to do is that we are not going to make sign in just a sign in with redirect, because one of the things about React is that it's so, I'm not saying that because React is, the implementation of React is wrong, but it's really bad at handling promises. The way you really want to handle asynchronicity in React is by subscribing to that asynchronous process. Almost like you don't want to create and wait for promises to resolve. You just want to subscribe to them. this is something that Impact helps us with. And there are other libraries that does this as well, like useFetch and useSWR and so on. And what we can do here is that sign in, like, and this is so interesting because you have two types of ways of interacting with the server. You have fetching data, which is more like I grab some data, like conceptually, what do you want to do? You want to go and grab some data, you want to keep that data, and you might want to suspend waiting for that data, or you might want to subscribe to the query itself to know if it's rejected or pending or resolved. And then you also want to refetch the data at certain points. But then you have this other kind of interaction with the server, which typically is called mutation. And it's the same thing. You're just calling an endpoint just like for fetching data, but it's conceptually something very different. Like you don't want to suspend a mutation in React. And you don't want to refetch a mutation in React, or generally. It's like you do it once and then you might want to subscribe to the mutation itself, like is it pending, is it rejected, is it fulfilled, and if you have an error, you will just run the mutation again. You don't like refetch it and so on. And that's why Impact has these two primitives called queries and mutations that just gives you a natural way to consume that query or mutation in React in a way that makes sense, and also allows you to consume it just as naturally in other stores. So let's say that we want to mute, is it mutation? Mutation. And we don't need this, and we don't need this, and we don't need this. We don't need this. So this is what we're doing now, is we're calling this sign in with redirect, and this mutation now should return whatever this promise returns, which is actually never. That's interesting. Oh, sorry, it's sign in with redirect. Oh yeah. Then oh, sorry. So I thought it would actually sign you in and return the user, but it doesn't do that. This is the redirect version because we're using this app on our mobile phones, and there you should do the redirect. So we're actually just going to do the redirect here, but at least it gave us an opportunity to talk about data fetching and mutations. Because where the hell do I actually get the user? Is it use family? Use family docref? No, this is just grabbing the family. So this is also, oh, use current user. Here it is. Use current. Where do I get the user from? The authentic on-auth state changed. Okay. So this is where I get the user from. And what's really interesting about Firebase is that you have this on-auth state change that actually fires immediately, which is a little bit weird because you kind of want to initialize things with like the user. But what we're going to do is, how are we going to do this? Do we want to, yeah. So we want to make this part of our session store. We have, yeah, and we want to get the user doc, that's fine. Yeah, so this is what I'm wondering a little bit. Like we have get Firestore and get auth. Actually, we have auth here. That's weird. So we should have Firestore here as well. So let's fix that. That makes it more consistent. So we don't have to do this stuff. So in our Firebase store, get Firestore. And then we'll also return Firestore here. Now, what I especially like about like one thing we also did in the V2 editor is that we created like an interface for a lot of our side effects, like API and all kinds of things, and that was to improve testability and run on the server side. But what it does is that it creates this level of indirection, so that when you want to figure out, okay, how does this fetch to the API work, and you like command click it, but then you don't get to the actual implementation, you get to the interface of that implementation, and then you have to figure out, oh yeah, it's a browser implementation I want to look at. And there's so many good ideas in programming to organize and do things, but in practice it's just horrible. Interfaces makes a lot of sense if you're actually going to have different implementations of something, but interfaces for the sake of interfaces doesn't make any sense. At least it's a pre-optimization. Okay, so now we have, let's fix the others. Didn't we have another store? No, okay. So we don't need the app here. And what we're going to do is that we are going to see if we are authenticated. If we are authenticated, we should grab the user doc. Now, one thing that's interesting here is that we might, that's what I'm reflecting on. Will that user doc ever change? Like your authentication state might change, but will your actual, when you're authenticated, will your user document actually change? I don't think so. Well, at least not in this app. Like maybe you could go and like change your avatar image and your name and stuff like that, but it doesn't have that feature because it adds some complexity. Yeah, but you know what? Let's imagine that that's actually going to happen. What we want to avoid here is that we don't want to make our user a promise. It shouldn't be async to resolve that value throughout our app, because I said like this app requires you to have a user to even operate. So what we want to do is to create a way to of course grab the user, and then we want to pass that authenticated user into a user store so that we can access the authenticated user in any aspect of the application itself. So this session store is just here to allow you to get access to a possibly authenticated user, and then we'll render out the application when we actually have an authenticated user. It's better explained with code. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to create a session state so that we know if we are authenticating, if we are authenticated, or if we are unauthenticated. So let me type that out. So session state, we are, and I have a tendency to start, I use status now for this because it's kind of weird to call it session state and then you have a property called state, but we might be authenticating, or the status might be, wow, this is, we're using, like this is not released yet, but I'm using Codium here. Or it can be, wow, it actually is so cool. And when we are authenticated, that's the only time, and let's give a reason here. Let's give it a string. Like if you're, no, we don't need a reason. It's just unauthenticated. There's no error. You're just not authenticated. And if you are authenticated, we do want to give you user. And the user, where the hell do you come from? where are you? Oh, it's just, oh, this is nice. So we can actually put the type in here as well. So we have the user, and I guess get user doc. Where is that coming from? You see this? It's quite complex how you go into Firebase and go and grab stuff. So what I think I want to do is all these functions I have for grabbing specific data, I'm going to put them inside the Firebase store. So this is like get user doc. Let's see how that, yeah, should I do that? Yeah, because what should happen here is that we don't need the Firestore. So we have app and auth. I'm not sure how much we use the auth. It's basically just sign in with redirect, which could also be in Firestore, really. Okay, but we can play around with that. But I want to try this. I want to try to, oh, sorry. I want to try to expose like these queries here. They don't know anything about that we're authenticated or not or whatever. It's just taking in a user in this case and runs the query. So we don't even need, let's see. Let's grab this thing. And then we have what was it? Get user. And should we use doc? Okay, let's just use doc for now. And then let's see how this looks. So we don't need Firestore here anymore, which is nice. Now the user really becomes part of the DTO that's coming from Firebase. So we need to export that from here. And I think we're going to call it user DTO. And then user. Yeah, it can actually just be the UID. Isn't that just a string? And is that, I'm always confused by this. Like Firebase has, is it UID? No, that's unique identifier. Yeah, so it will be user UID. And this gives, yeah, it basically, we just need a family ID. That's the thing we're getting at here. Then user data collection, we can also put these into Firestore here. What I'm wondering is like how much this will grow. But okay, we have doc, we have the UID, we have, let's make it async. Oh, what did I do? What did I do? So yeah, let's make it, put it here? Yeah, async. And then get doc. It's also from Firestore, blah, blah, blah. UID, user UID. And then we have the family ID. Now we can start talking about queries. So I guess, yeah. Oh, UID. So in this case, that's a question. Like, should our Firestore be concerned about the consumption of the data, or should it just return promises? And then our other stores that are specific to what the application needs to consume, they rather convert these promises into actual queries and mutations. I think that's the right way to go. So let's try that first. And now in our session store, we have session state, and we're using a signal, and this is just a way to define reactive state. And we're going to start with authenticating. And what we are going to do is when on the authentication state changes, does this return a disposer? Unsubscribe. What is it? Is it a, yeah, it's a function. So what we're going to do, we're going to create a handler for this, handle auth state change. And this takes a user, and that will be auth.user, I think. Oh, we can't use. Oh, that's interesting. Firebase functions? No. Can I do this? Auth. Did I import it? Does typing work? Or can I just say user? Ugh. So, oh yeah, so I can just grab the user from, wow, this is interesting. It's not quite correct, but it's interesting. Handle of state change. So what we want to do is, if we have a user, we want to set the value of our state to be authenticated. Oh yeah, but okay. How do we want to do this? We also want to grab the user document, but we can do that. There's one tiny iffy thing about this that I don't like. It's that we're kind of creating this. Yeah, how would we properly handle this? So this is the kind of stuff I get really stuck on. It's because it's like conceptually difficult to, like, it will probably just work, but it's not really correct. So what I really need to do here is whenever handle auth state change triggers, which would be here, I need to go and fetch the user doc before we say that we are authenticated. But if I go and grab the user doc and then suddenly we are unauthenticated again, the promise resolves and we set the state to authenticated. So it's kind of like, I've been watching these videos on RxJS and Angular and signals and stuff, just because I was curious about how they think about signals. And this kind of thing is what RxJS really helps you with. But RxJS is it's so much to learn. There's so many like operators and stuff. Excuse me. And I don't know it well enough. So what we will do here, so what we can do is that we can dispose of the on-auth state changed while we are fetching the user doc. But still, you might be unauthenticated during that time. But you know what? I'm going to just comment that and not care about it. But it would be a fun thing. Like, how would we solve that specific scenario using RxJS, for example? That would be a fun thing. I'm actually going to comment that. We might be unauthenticated during fetching the user doc. Use RxJS to see how that could be solved. Like, this is more for educational purposes. And But yeah, if we have a user, we are going to get the user doc. We're going to actually make this an async function. And we're going to say so is that, yeah, user doc. Okay, let's call it get user instead. Ah, of course. Let's see, get user. Yeah, this doc stuff. Yeah, that's also nice because now we're putting all this Firebase terminology inside our Firestore. It's not leaking into our application, which I like. Cool. So like these things, we could put that also into the Firestore so that we didn't need to pass in auth here. Maybe we can do that to kind of clean things up. We actually, it's an hour passes along quite quickly. But anyways, so if we don't have a user, well, what we can do is that we can check the state. Okay, so that's like if state dot value yeah, so if we are authenticating still, then we actually set the value. That's fine. But I'm still going to add that comment. So this just ensures that whenever this async process resolves, if we change to like unauthenticated in the meantime, or even authenticated for some reason, it won't like reset that state. And then if things went bad, we're just unauthenticated. In this case, maybe there's like an error. So you could have like a reason for being unauthenticated. Maybe we should add that. But we might just be unauthenticated. Maybe without any like specific reason. Yeah, like we might just have a null user. So what, okay, so we can actually fix that. So what we can do is we can say and then if fetching the what did I do? Oh shit. If user, where's the catch? Where are you? Where's, oh yeah, catch. No, what the hell did I do? Brackets. Why is this? I need another one of you. Like this? Why is this else going so wrong? Oh. Oh. And then we're missing that. Okay, there we go. So if we don't have oh, what the hell? Okay, sorry. It should be like this. So if we have an error grabbing the user document, well, this is pretty impressive. So what I do here to fix typing, I just string the error, because that gets the message if it's an error instance, and then if it's anything else, it's still a string, which is nice. Okay, because this is really the flow. Like, we'll get a state change, authentication state change. If we have a if we don't have a user, we're just unauthenticated. If we do have a user, we want to grab the user's document, and if we're still authenticating when we get that document, like we haven't been unauthenticated in the meantime, we'll set ourselves as authenticated. Or if an error occurs during getting the user document, we'll set ourselves as unauthenticated with the actual error. So this basically sets us up to manage the state of authentication. And the final thing we're going to do here is we're going to use cleanup. We don't strictly need to use this because our session store is also global. But if we were to provide our session store to a specific componentry, it would dispose of this subscription when that store is provider unmounted. So one thing I like about not like anything conceptual or specific to impact, it's just using a function to define something and return a public API. So by the way, what we want to return here is the actual state. And we return that as a getter because we want to return the actual value. Anyways, what I like, there's so many like small details. So for example here, I can just create a function here and I can reference that function. And I don't have to care about the context of the function. Like I don't have to bind it or anything like that. I can just use it. And it has access to everything else within this scope. It might not sound like much, but you can imagine implementing this in a class. You would have in the constructor, you would have to create this on-auth state change. You would have to store the disposer of this subscription. You would have to bind, handle auth state changed, and so on. There's like so much fluff to the syntax, and anything that's private will be like artificially private using the private keyword. But here it's just whatever we don't return here becomes private, and it's properly private. So yeah, I really like just using a function to deal with this stuff. Anyway, so what we can do now is go to our page. Where is our session component? Session. So what we are going to do here for our session is that we're going to change it a little bit. I don't think we want to use suspense. We're going to be a bit more specific. So what we're going to do is, first of all, I want to actually, do we have time for that? Let's see, GitHub. Do we have time for that? Impact. I can't remember how it's. It's API. It's under API. Signal, and so we need the latest version of TypeScript, and we need this bubble plugin. Like this is going to be part of JavaScript soon, but currently it's not. But I want to show that syntax because it's really interesting. So yarn add TypeScript. Do we use that as a dependency or no? Dev dependency. And we're also going to add this one. And if I remember correctly, maybe I already have bubble here. Do I? No. If I remember correctly, we can just add a bubble RC file and then Next.js will just understand that. Maybe? Okay. Let's see what happens. So what I want to do is, well, first of all, I'm going to restart our TypeScript language server. Let's close other tabs. And we are going to use a new keyword. We're going to observe changes to any signals consumed here. So we're going to say, what's it called? Session state. Use store, session store. what we can try to do here is if session state, oh, sorry, not session state, session store. Why is this complaining, by the way? Oh, maybe we can just grab the state here. Or no, I want to be explicit. I've decided to be very explicit. So if we are authenticating, we are going to return the dashboard skeleton. Like so. Like so. And if, this is so cool. If we're unauthenticated, we are still going to return the dashboard skeleton, but with the sign-in model. So I guess we can just return this. Dashboard skeleton. I think that will work because this is just a floating thing. And then, so the thing is, like, if we have an error, we want to show that error. I'm not sure where to show that error, but that we can fix that later. And then let's just return nothing when we're authenticated for now. Let's see if this even works. I think I have to restart the dev server though. Yeah. Let's see. Oh, by the way, I don't want the previews to pop up here. Does it still have an issue? Yeah, but I can fix this. Well, is all of this module not found? Is that like... amp dev, can I find... Oh, bubble core. Yeah, I'm going to fix that, so we don't have to spend time on that, but we can just drop this one and we can just use observe like this, just to see if we actually have something running at the end of this stream. That would be nice. Oh, there. Let's see. Wow, it's pretty... Oh, we have a bug. Oh wait, this is... Yeah, I cannot initialize store. Firebase store. Oh, sorry. It wasn't actually a bug in... I think it's because our page container is already initializing somewhere. Where is it initializing it? I think we're duplicating the initialization of Firebase. Do I have anywhere else I do this? Yeah, I'm going to check that. No, we're just doing it one place. I think this might be strict mode related with the same option as when it was. But what's this get? Oh no, I'm noticing I'm getting maybe we should change to Vite so that we actually get proper debugging as well. I'm wondering if, because we are like lazy loading, no, it shouldn't matter. Yeah, I'm going to check why this happens, and then we can end the stream here. But at least we got a chance to talk about a few different things. And just to quickly summarize, what we basically been able to achieve now by having like this concept of a store is that in a traditional global state store concept, we would just think about state. We wouldn't think about where do we initialize the app? How do we expose an API for other stores to consume things, like co-locate what matters and what doesn't matter. In this case, this is Firebase related, and then we expose an API to the other stores so that they get like a don't have to care about Firebase, they just get the data they want, and so on. And we saw that we could compose these stores using the hooks pattern, so that I created a Firebase store with a certain responsibility, then I created a session store with its responsibility, and it was able to use the Firebase store. We talked about the complexities of moving from an unauthenticated state to an authenticated state, where we had this added complexity of actually fetching something asynchronously when you're authenticated, and we have to make sure that we don't get a race condition. And then hopefully it should have worked. It didn't, but yeah, that's probably a small detail. And we're like, this tool isn't ready for release. We're kind of testing it now, so there will probably be some bugs. Okay, cool. I think we are good. And then I'm gonna stop the stream, and hopefully I'll see you in a couple of days, and we'll just continue working on this. We're going to finish the authentication, and then we should dive straight into groceries. That's exciting. See how we would encapsulate that and make that available. And what's interesting about that is that the groceries store should only be available when you're actually authenticated. And what does that mean, and how do we expose that, and how does it help us create like a context for our components to understand that yes, we are indeed authenticated. Cool. Thanks for now, and bye bye.